So as you just heard, love changes everything. Nothing in the world will ever be the same. Of all the human emotions that we have, more songs, more books, more letters, more stories, more screenplays have been written about love than anything else. And not just romantic love, although that's the one, especially this weekend, that seems to have the most pizzazz, shall we say. This weekend, it was Valentine's Day, and a certain movie came out. What I'm really talking about is love in all of its flavors. Deepak Chopra talks about love coming in many different flavors. There's the love that a parent has for their child or their grandchild. There's the love between friends, love between siblings and family members, love we have for our animals. Any animal lovers? Yeah. Love of country. Love of nature. These are just a few of the flavors that we have. So why do you suppose it is? Why do you think of all the human emotions that we have, that love seems to have the most power, the most sizzle, the most impact on us? Maybe it's because, that was a rhetorical question, thank you. Maybe it's because of the simple question that it says in the Christian Bible, and that is, God is love. Doesn't say God is happiness. Doesn't say God is joy. Doesn't say God is any other emotion, although in the Old Testament, it's kind of like God is angry all the time. But, it simply says God is love. So maybe the reason more is written about love and sung about love is because it is a way for us to express our divine nature. Because the truth is, every one of us is an aspect of love. Every one of us is a spark of that divine. Therefore, each of us is here to be love. We are here to be love. Our Ernest Holmes. Oh, let me have my mind on Vegas. Okay, let me tell you what Ernest Holmes said. He says, love is at the center of man's being, and the calm, continuous pulsations of life are governed by love. Yeah. And love, for lack of a better word, is contagious. We get it from other people. We catch it from other people. For instance, we've all heard stories, right, about babies who are born with what they refer to as failure to thrive. For whatever reason, that life force energy is not very strong within them. So there are people who volunteer to come in and just cuddle and just snuggle those babies and just hold them. In other words, to just love them. And that love somehow gets transferred to the baby. And often they begin to thrive once they're being given that. They catch the love that's being given to them. And they begin to heal. That's because, as Ernest Holmes said, Ernest has a lot to say about love today. He says, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the very reason for our being. And that explains why it is that people should have something or someone to love. And the beauty of it is we can give and give and give love. And there's always more. There's always more. There's no limit to the amount of love that we can give or the amount of love that we can receive. The only limit is the limit we put on it. So whenever we withhold love for whatever reason, we limit our capacity to receive. Is this making sense? The more we put conditions on our love, it lessens our openness to both giving and receiving it, because once again, Ernest Holmes, who had a lot to say, said we attract to us what we first become. Until we learn to love, we are not sending out love vibrations. And not until we send out those vibrations can we receive love in return. Which brings me to my talk title today, which is Wave of Love. I'll bet ministers all over the world are talking about love today. Yeah, it's the day after Valentine's Day, but you know what? When you do as many talks as we do every year, when there's a theme, you go for it. But last week, just before I came to the center last week, I received an email from a colleague of mine that exemplifies this idea of the contagion of love. So I just wanted to share it with you. Her name is Reverend Ruth Kirby, and she is in Ashland, Oregon. She wrote, "Dear wonderful ministers, I love the awareness of knowing that many of us are speaking on Sunday morning. I feel our connection while I'm preparing my talk, and then in the morning in meditation, and even in deciding what to wear and getting ready. I feel at these times that we are a wave of inspiration that is building up all over the world, and then spreading out and drenching people with inspiring ideas and loving consciousness. Even the time difference serves to enhance the wave feeling. I just wanted to express my appreciation for what we all do and all the dedication we have to step up every Sunday and offer ourselves to the alchemy of transformation in love. On Sunday, I know that thousands of people will be so glad we did. People who cried themselves to sleep the night before. People who are challenged by circumstances in their lives. And people who are doing well. All have a place they can go on Sunday morning and feel loved." Honestly, she wrote, do we get how big a deal that really is? She says, "So I send my love out to each of you, and thank you for being that way for me. Whether you're speaking on Sunday or however you express your ministry, we are truly one in this beautiful thing called life." Now, I read that whole thing for you because it had deep meaning for me when I read it last Sunday. I was deeply moved. Can you imagine getting an email like that first thing on a Sunday morning when you're about to go out and do what you do? And if you were here last week, you know that the energy was absolutely through the roof. Partly because one person in Ashland, Oregon, chose to send a wave of love over the miles, over the hours, and it crashed over us, those of us who were open to it. Does that make sense? So you may be thinking to yourself, we've got a number of new people here today, you may be thinking, well, this is nice, well, that's kind of a nice story. It's a little bit woo-woo, but you know, it's okay. But really, how is this possible? Jason, could you get me off of that slide, please? I don't know why it's not working.
It's not working up here.
Is it stuck? The wave just continues. Okay, pay no attention. Ah, that's not mine. Okay, anyway, so. Love changes everything. Okay, yeah, we're getting there, wait. Okay, so you may be thinking, I can tell what you're thinking, that yeah, our thoughts can change our life, but really, how can my thoughts affect somebody else? Well, Science of Mind teaches us that we all have this emotional, this mental vibration that we walk around with, right? Our vibe. It's made up of all the thought experiences and the beliefs and everything else that we've ever held. And this energy is how we show up in the world. Ernest Holmes calls it our mental atmosphere. Hippies in the day call it the vibe. Hey man, that cat's got a weird vibe. Yeah? Yeah. But science is also teaching us that everything is made up of vibrating energy. I'm going to make my point here, I promise. Everything that we see is vibrating at one frequency or another, including us. However, our frequency is different than the other frequencies of the things that we see. So it seems like we're separate from things, people, other people, animals, plants, that type of thing, but we are not separate. We are, in fact, living in an ocean of energy. We are connected. We are individual waves of the ocean of life. Yoko Ono said, "Distance doesn't exist, in fact, and neither does time. Vibrations from love or music can be felt everywhere at all times." So think about a sound vibration, right? It ripples out into the atmosphere and it keeps on going and going and going. Science proves this. So then doesn't it make just as much sense that an intentional vibrational wave of love, like what my colleague sent last week, doesn't it make sense that it would also ripple out into the world and touch those who were open to it? Now, because it's subtle, it's a subtle energy of love, it's not in your face, we may not realize that we're being affected by it. But we've already discussed how people respond to love. It enlivens us. It is our natural state. So whether we're aware of an intentional love vibration or not, it is still enlivening us at a deep level, because it's who we are. One more quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, "If we make ourselves receptive to the idea of love, we become lovable. To the degree that we embody love, we are love. This is why people who love are loved." So my sister Peggy, who lives in St. George, Utah, sent me an article about a man by the name of Alfred Date. Alfred is the oldest living man in Australia. He is 109 years old. So Mr. Date was recently moved to a assisted living facility, and when he got an unusual request from the staff, two of the nurses said to him, "We understand you can knit." And he said yes, he'd been knitting for decades. First thing he did was knit a sweater for his nephew back in the 30s, right? Well, they went on to explain that the Phillip Island Penguin Foundation had put out a call for sweaters to help the animals. Now, the idea of sweaters for penguins, pretty adorable, right? Pretty whimsical, right? But the fact is, they provide a practical purpose for rescuing the birds after oil spills. Knitted penguin sweaters play an important role in saving these little penguins, because a drop of oil the size of a thumbnail can kill a baby penguin. So Mr. Date took on the challenge of knitting sweaters for penguins, and he went to work doing this, as did hundreds of other knitters all over the globe. So much so, swear to God, true article, that the organization asked people to stop knitting sweaters for penguins and put their talents to other uses, such as knitting mittens for baby koalas whose paws are burned by the wildfires, and for knitted pouches for orphaned kangaroos. Now here's the gist of my story and why I included it in my talk on a wave of love. Even if the penguin sweaters are not being used immediately, they also have a positive effect on the knitters themselves. Knitting and other crafts are being used as therapy to boost mental health, relieve stress, boost brain power. One study has shown that that kind of craft activity lowers the risk of developing Alzheimer's and other cognitive impairment diseases by as much as 50%. So I ask you, are the benefits strictly from knitting and craft making? Some of them. Some of those benefits are. But couldn't it also be that the healing effects could be because people like Mr. Date are giving themselves in a wave of love? And it's circling back around? That he and others like him are giving and they are receiving loving benefits? Lao Tzu said, kindness in giving creates love. So I thought it might be fun to practice this a little bit for a few moments. We're going to create a wave of love. We're going to see what happens. So Mark, I'm going to ask you to come up. If you are open to this, I invite you to close your eyes. The next few moments, you don't need to do anything other than just follow what I'm talking about. Allow yourself to relax. Feel your bottom supported by the chair. And think of someone or something that you love. Allow them to become very real in your mind's eye, in your heart. Now allow that feeling of love to grow. Feel it enveloping you, not in a fierce way, but in an enlivening way. Feel yourself vibrating with love. Allow that feeling of love to now move beyond your physical body. Feel it growing and expanding. And now with your imagination, send that love to the person sitting to your left. And now send that love to the person sitting to your right, not diminishing what you're sending to your left. Now send it to the people sitting behind you. Imagine sending that love in front of you. And now send it all the way up here to me. As that feeling of love continues to swirl and vibrate throughout the room, allow yourself to feel the wave of love returning to you as well. So now it's moving as a wave in this room. Picture that ripple effect of the love as you're sending it out, but it's up-leveled even more because it's an amalgam now of the love of everyone else moving through the room. And now feel it expanding. Take it out beyond the confines of this room, of this building. Send it out, that feeling love, that wave of love to the people of Calgary. and beyond the city of limits to the people of Alberta. Continuing it going now, that wave of love is covering Canada. It's covering all of North America. Now imagine that expanded wave of love enveloping the entire planet. See our beautiful blue planet surrounded by a vibration of love. And that people, without even knowing it, their lives are being touched, their lives are being transformed by this wave of love. And picture and feel that wave of love rippling back to you. When you're ready, allow yourself to come back to the room. Find yourself being open, receptive, and feeling oh so loved. I know I do. And when you come back to the room, slowly open your eyes. Again, look around the room and see the people whose love you have received, whose love you have given. Because it is true that love changes everything. And nothing in the world can ever be the same. I love you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And so it is.